Alrighty, folks, what's going on? This is Matt here for Dark One Linux Tech Gamer. This is the fusion of Linux technology and gaming, and we're looking at a video that kind of cropped up across my general feed. YouTube actually, giving some good videos on occasion. This one is switching from Windows to Linux. Here's 3 things you must do. Please don't be. I hate statement of facts in the title. Thumbnail is a little different, but the title of the actual video always concerns me. But maybe, yeah, I'm gonna go into this with an open mind. This is Linux Tube, so never react to him, don't watch his content. So no idea who this dude is. Community might. I have no fucking clue. Let's roll into it and see what he's got to say about the 3 things that you have to do if you're switching from Windows to Linux.
Hey guys, how you guys doing? Welcome back to the channel. Before we start today's video though, I'd like to take a minute and ask you to please hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button, and that notification button so that way you get notified of every new video that we make. If you are new to this operating system, Linux that is, setting up your desktop can feel a bit overwhelming, but don't worry, man, because in today's video, I'm going to share with you 3 must-do things while setting up your Linux desktop for the first time. These tips will help you get started and make your Linux experience so much more smoother and enjoyable. First, we're going to talk about one thing that's very, very important, and that's the update your system. Linux distributions often release updates and patches to improve security. Now, if your distribution is a few days old or just a few days, like you download it within like say 3 days of the distribution, maybe even a week, you don't need to worry about it so much, because in these updates, they're basically adding security patches and some new features, mostly security patches and bug fixes. To update your system, all you simply got to do is open a terminal, type in the command sudo apt update followed by sudo apt upgrade after the update is completed.
So if they're switching, again, I don't know this guy's content, so I want to make it clear. I don't know where his level is at as far as like recommendations and distros and all that stuff. He's recommend Debian based distros with the sudo app stuff, so I'm guessing probably Debian Ubuntu bases. If they're switching from Windows, why in the hell do we constantly, and I mean constantly, tell them to use the fucking terminal? Because if they're coming from the prior systems, that's not how they update the goddamn system. That's not how they install software. They're used to the pointy clicky thing that we all enter a fucking act with. So please, for the love of God, can we stop defaultly recommending the goddamn fucking terminal for actual updates? Use the goddamn software center, store, whatever you want to call it, Discover, GNOME Software, App Center, insert thing here. Please, for the love of God, if they are new to Linux, now I am speaking outside of the bubble because a lot of people in the Linux bubble, example, as far as, just type it in the terminal. No, don't just type it into the fucking terminal because that's not what the person's used to if they're coming from that end of the spectrum as far as just switching from Windows to Linux. Because what they know is how Windows operates. So you give them an equivocal, you give them a alternative, as I would say, as opposed to a replacement. You give them an alternative, which is the GUI that does it fucking for them as well. So I'm not slagging on the recommendation of updating the system. No. Totally good advice there. But the way to go about upgrading it, if they're coming from Windows and are new, I'm talking new. I'm not talking like these are people who don't care about fucking technology. What I'm saying is that these people give 2 shits about how technology works. They do update it and go. That's all they care about. They don't want to go sudo app. They want like automated technology. That's basically what they want. They want an appliance. They think computers are an appliance. So you give them as much of an appliance-like experience while giving them the benefits of like a open Linux ecosystem slash core, if you want to call it that. That is something that I far too frequently do people in the Linux ecosystem and in the Linux bubble don't understand how to talk to people outside of the Linux bubble, because they forget, they don't understand like that level of people not caring about technology because they're so into the technology. But as far as the advice for updating the system, totally agree. Manner in which to do it, not the effing terminal.
In distros that are based off Debian or Ubuntu. In Fedora or any distro that is based off of it, type in sudo dnf update and then sudo dnf upgrade. As for Arch-based distros, then, well, you're going to want to type in the command in pacman, is their package manager, and it's going to be sudo pacman, all lowercase, dash capital SYYU. However, this type of distro as a new to Linux user is probably something you shouldn't be using because it's a rolling release distro and you can very easily experience breakage in it because it's so bleeding edge and very, well, let's just say sometimes developers just push things before they should be, tested and ready. There's not as much testing going on in the Arch distribution packages before they release them.
If you're talking, no, I want to be clear. I'm using an Arch-based distro. I'm using Garuda. I would say it depends on your hardware. I'm not going to make a blanket statement. Ubuntu's great. I love like the whole distros don't matter crowd to me are idiots because they just seem to not understand like every distro, even the wallpaper change the distros tend to bring something new, different, and a different angle to come into the same solution because they might work on something that other, like the mainline distros just don't give a shit about. As far as the Arch breaking things, yeah, it breaks stuff, but I've had Ubuntu systems bork. I've had a few times I've done Fedora. I've had Fedora systems bork. Like I've had systems bork. They all do. The fucking Windows borks all the goddamn time. It's like a walking meme at this point. I've had Mac OS systems that bork. It all depends on really your situation and what you're looking for, because you can kind of automate the Arch process a little more, like for the more Archy end user focused distros. I only recommend rolling based on someone's hardware more than I would anything else, because Ubuntu, when it comes to newer hardware that is released, like AMD stuff, AMD tends to pin a lot of their new hardware releases on certain kernel releases. So sometimes you're not going to see that shit or support for like 3 to 6 months. Super annoying. Happened with like the Radeon 7, happened with the Vega 5664 cards. Super, super annoying. So he's not wrong. I'm just saying that it depends. It's more situational than people tend to cut and dry it a lot of the times.
Manjaro, which is a Arch-based distribution out there that is very popular amongst new to Linux users because it can, well, all Arch Linux distributions are very easy to install and they're deceiving this way. They hold back their packages over at Manjaro for a while before they roll them out. So if you are going to try as a new to Linux user Arch distribution, I would strongly suggest that it be Manjaro, simply because of the way that they hold back packages. Now, Manjaro's not without fault. I'll warn you now, just saying, it's not without fault. It has done many things in the past that are like, what are you thinking, boys? What are you thinking? But yet they still do it. So it's not the greatest distribution out there for Arch at all, but for a new to Linux user, it's probably the best jumping in point for Arch, all in all, even though you may have a negative experience with it. All in all, this will ensure that your system is up to date and running very smoothly. Second,
again, I have no issue with the overall statement of update your system, make sure the shit's up to date and secure, and new software, blah blah blah, whatever your distro repos provide. Totally cool, totally awesome. The way you go about getting there and the way you're talking, and specifically about new to Linux users or new new to Linux users should not be using the goddamn terminal because it's not what they're familiar with. That's not what they're going to know. You give them a blinking cursor and black and white or whatever color text field you want on your terminal emulator. That's not a great user experience. They're used to the where the pointy clicky thing is that we mostly interact with. That's what they know. They don't know what a web browser is. They just know it's Chrome or Edge or insert browser name here. They think that's the internet. Like, we got to start speaking to the crowd better. Speak outside the fucking bubble. Unfortunately, far too often we don't speak outside the fucking bubble. And that's really my point. We can still have this stuff. We can have these conversations. But you can window dress it just a little bit better so it doesn't seem as goddamn awful on an initial impression. And like that's my whole thing, is make a good first fucking impression. So when we see documentation and everything else is like sudo apt-get or and it's all terminal stuff. Like, you'll hear the argument that the terminal is ubiquitous and until you switch distros and, different packages, and then you have package management. And then you have different stuff all around. It doesn't become very ubiquitous now, does it? Let's not even get into like if you use fish or if you use bash or if you use, insert other versions of that going on. I'm just saying, like, the reasons people will give are not always as straightforward as they like to kind of come off sometimes. But I think the initial first impression is we, by all means, have the terminal documentation, but that shouldn't be the only documentation, especially for distros that talk about catering to new users. Know your market, bro.
Secondly, customizing your desktop environment. That's another thing you must do, because not every desktop that you get really quite meets your need as far as desktop environments. Now, there are many, many, many distributions out there that have many different types of desktop environments, from KDE, GNOME, XFCE, Enlightenment, Cinnamon, Budgie. They've got tons of different desktop environments out there that are all functional. They all work well. They have their purposes, but some of them are just for some people. Other ones are just not for people. It's up to you. It's what your preference is. Linux offers a wide range of desktop environments, such as the ones that I've just mentioned, each with its own unique look and feel, which is what I've said. Take some time to explore different options and choose the one that actually suits your preferences or looks like it's going to suit your preferences. To do this, it's as easy as using a Ventoy on your USB, which Ventoy is a cross-platform application when you download the ISOs. And if you're coming from Windows, it's cross-platform, so you can use it on them. On Windows as well, you can just go download it, run the executable, and what it does, it's going to erase your USB, and it's going to make it like a huge hard drive where you just drag and drop your ISOs onto it, and then you can boot into that USB from your BIOS and test drive your ISOs that you put on there. And it will only allow you to hold as many ISOs that will fit on the USB. That is the best way to test drive your distros to see which one looks and feels like you. Try them.
Yes, I love Ventoy. Again, it all depends. Like, I'm not taking issue with the recommendation in and of itself. Like, yes, for those that have any technical inclinations, basically whatsoever, it's not hard to go into the BIOS or the UEFI and disable secure boot generically, not all the time, but generically disable secure boot, and so you can, boot off USB or legacy support or, insert thing here. That's awesome. And I do highly recommend trying out live USBs, especially ones that make it so all you have to do is press, F8, delete, F2, whatever, and it just gives you a boot up option, and you just hit enter and you go to the USB. OEMs that do that are fan-fucking-tastic. But generically, most, again, I'm speaking for the, I don't want to say technology illiterate, but people who don't care about technology. It's a tool, it's an appliance. Do your thing, do my thing that I need you to do, and go the fuck away. That, very, very much the car mentality. Unless you're a mechanic, you don't give a shit how it works. Fix me, work. That's kind of the mentality that, unfortunately, it's hard for Linux people to really understand and get into. And I get that very utilitarian appliance kind of mentality as far as like the experience or the level of knowledge or the level of care. And that's not dumbing down things. And I don't mean that. But you can make a better first impression. And I think the better recommendation is having something that is pre-installed. A distro, it doesn't matter. Tuxedo OS, insert OEM here with. I know people are, Linux OEMs are overpriced. Well, they're boutique. Like, of course, they're going to be more expensive. That's just what it is. And that's where this is kind of on the community at some point, where they have to understand that if they're not going to support Linux OEMs and the ecosystem around the OEMs, that obviously supply demand, so cost is going to be higher. And someone goes and buys that cheap $300 Windows system or whatever, they're going to be going looking for support. And guess what, bruh? You're the support. So when the noob comes asking questions, don't whine and complain about, did you Google RTFM? Like, understand that you're going to end up being the support, regardless of how many times you answer the question about how do I change my BIOS settings? How do I boot off USB? How do I do X? How do I do Y? Because again, their level of care for technology is very fucking low or non-existent. They're not you. Remember that when it comes to the technology caring part. But yes, I do think something like Ventoy and whatnot, if people can get over that hurdle, is a great way to find the right distro for you. But I'm going to recommend that people buy directly from OEMs that come with a predefined experience, etc. That's my recommendation. And honestly, the lowest cost Linux PC right now, despite what people might like or dislike about it, is actually the Steam Deck. And it has a halfway decent experience. Because that's just literally a power button and switch to desktop mode. Like that simplifies the process to almost that point of where users won't care.
Try them out one by one till you find the one that makes you say, In the live environments, you can change the wallpaper, you can tweak the theme, and you can even add widgets to your desktop. However, in in GNOME, unlike KDE, for instance, because KDE allows you to customize every doggone thing, GNOME, it's a little harder to do this, but you can still get this done with tools like GNOME Tweak Tool. So that's a tool, if you decide to lean towards GNOME, that you're going to want to use in order to customize your desktop to the best way that makes you feel like it works best for you. Personally,
I agree with the tool itself as far as like what it allows you to do, etc. Most people, how many people that were Windows users with like Windows XP or Windows 7 kept the default wallpaper? The cloud and rolling hills thing was immaculately everywhere on people who didn't care about technology. Same with the Windows 7 logo wallpaper. Immaculately everywhere for people who didn't care. That's the reality. Most people don't customize jack shit. They might change the wallpaper, but you're talking like a sub percentage of that of normal users.
Personalizing your Linux desktop will make you feel like it's your own. And that's important. You got to own your desktop environment. You got to own whatever interface that you're using to use your computer. I mean, there's just, if it don't feel like home, then you're not going to want to spend time on it. You're not going to have a good experience. That's important. I think customizing is as equally important as making sure your systems are up to date when you first get it installed. So you got the latest
So I don't think customization is as important. The ability to actually do it, yes. The ability to control, yes. But there is nothing wrong with people sticking with a default shipping experience. I don't think it's necessary for people to customize if they don't care to. That is their choice. Finding whatever fits them, different story, whatever. But again, most people are going to only give a crap about using the default shipping experience. And that's just what most people are. Again, we're talking to the echo chamber, the crowd, and all that stuff. We need to stop talking to the echo chamber and kind of redirect where we're speaking so that the rest of the audience can hear, instead of talking to the wall and the sound bouncing back, that we're actually talking to the audience that's actually out there paying, maybe paying attention, because we do a lot of the wall talking and not enough to the other audience that's actually out there.
The latest and greatest of everything going on. Lastly, let's go ahead and talk about essential software. Linux comes with a variety of pre-installed software applications, but there are a few must-haves. But let's be real here. There are distributions that are all over the place with the software that already come pre-installed. You have some that are very minimal and lightweight, right down to the actual desktop environment is a lightweight desktop environment, and they don't come with hardly any apps. One of the must-haves that I would recommend or to include a web browser. After all, we spend most of our time watching the Linux tube, right? I'm sure y'all keep watch that Linux tube all day long and all night long, or at least you should be. If you aren't, as a whole, pretty much so on any OS out there, whether it be Windows, whether it be Linux, whether it be BSD, whatever, web browsers are used 90% of your computing time. This is a study that has been done. So make sure that you get a good browser. Firefox is a default usually in most distributions. However, Vivaldi or Brave are great alternatives to Firefox. I would take Vivaldi over Brave because it's much more flexible. The integration for security that it has in there, the ad blockers, all that good stuff is already there in the foundation. Also, you got tab, you can tab groups. You also have email clients on there and calendar clients that are built right into it. I mean, it's really the epitome of a one-stop shop. It really takes, for me, it makes my workflow go a lot easier because I wind up only going to one place instead of having so many things open.
As far as browser, most people are going to just go in whatever the hell ship. Personally, I'm in the same camp you are. I'm a Vivaldi guy. I prefer Vivaldi. I prefer just, group tabs and just everything that Vivaldi allows and can do. Tab stacks is fantastic. On that stuff, it keeps things clean, and there's just certain things that are fantastic that Vivaldi does. The built-in ad blocking, being able to switch out your providers, and just the customization if you want to go that route. Awesome, love it. Default experience for Vivaldi can be a bit overwhelming. It's kind of like KDE. The reason I tend to recommend Vivaldi and use Vivaldi is because it treats Linux like development-wise, it treats Linux like a first-class citizen. So you get my support because you're building on my platform and not as an afterthought. Firefox, we tend to be kind of an afterthought, unfortunately.
It doesn't, I don't think, minimize the RAM use, but at any instance, I just have one place to go and it's easier to keep track of those things. So then the second other essential software must-have that I would recommend is a media player. It's an important one. After all, how else would you watch those downloaded TLT videos, right? It's okay. You have my permission to pirate my videos. No problems. Keep watching them over and over and over again. But it's better if you watch them streamed off YouTube. It helps me out in the end, the AdSense revenue. Yeah, In this case, I'd say that VLC is another great one. However, it is mostly a default one on most distributions. The other one it tends to be is MPV. It's not bad. But the reason why I like VLC over MPV is because it's literally the Swiss Army knife of all players.
And I'll tell you why I will tell anybody coming from Windows VLC, just as I will tell them Firefox, because it's what they know. if there's an alternative that they potentially might know about, if they're out of the group that actually understands what a program is and not the double clicky thing that I click on brings me to my internet. If that group, they're going to know the difference in applications, but they're only going to know the ones that are available in their ecosystem. So if you give them something similar from or what they know from the ecosystem they're coming from too. So if you're giving them Firefox and VLC and whatever, and they know that those applications are available, it makes the transition so much easier. Because again, general people, not technology people, not Linux people, like Linux people, like the I give a shit about everything people, but the technology DIY enthusiast crowd that Linux generally tends to attract don't understand that. Again, that group of people that are going to look at these applications, they care about the applications, they don't care about the platform. Really is really what it boils down to. So if they can get most of their applications on another platform, Google did a study. Now, I'm not a big Google guy personally, as far as like my trust in the company, but back when there was more questionable stuff being done by Google Docs, as far as adding functionality and them going back and forth with Microsoft, etc. Google did a study where it's like, if a program is 80 to 85% able to do what the prior application in some way, shape, or form was able to do, then people will care. People will use it. People will deal with some of the limitations. I mean, Windows can only do 80 to 85% of what I need it to, but still we'll deal with it. People get used to the rigmarole that is Windows or Mac OS, or the intricacies and the nonsense that goes on in the system, and they just chalk it up to it's the system. So I think that when you change the conversation to the OS, not like the OS matters, like the core matters because it's built different. It has control in mind, like you control the system, as opposed to, Microsoft shoving ads in my file browser and shit, and Mac OS, legitimately killing off OS support for perfectly good fucking hardware, stuff like that. That is the difference. So again, how we sell Linux has always been fucking terrible, and it is still fucking terrible to this day. Because we don't understand that crowd. We don't understand this crowd. And I like to talk to that crowd, because the crowd that doesn't give a shit about a lot of it, because it's a different point of view as opposed to this crowd that I'm always talking to or about or with or etc. that is so deep into it, they don't know how to talk to the people on the other side. Feels like fucking politics a lot of the time.
It plays it all. It even allows you to stream things as long as the format's in an M3U format. So you could use it also as a actual movie player, video player, and MP3 player. You don't have to have both. But if you have, don't want to use VLC because you have some reason why you don't like it, you can use MPB, and then you could use something like Amrock, Lollipop, I think, is a player. There's several different ones. You can just find or Google music players for for Linux, and you'll come up with a plethora of them. If these are
we need to Google them. Just go to your software center, store, whatever you want to call it, the GUI portion, not the sudo app, sudo DNF search, but the app store, and just type in music player. Most of them have categories. That'll say music. Click on that and scroll through. You'll find plenty of them. Amarok, Lollipop, Yarrock. There's a bunch of Electron-based ones. So you'll find whatever music player will fit your bill. Think of it as shopping without the price tag. And I'll be the first one to say that I generically pay for all the software that I use in some way, shape, or form on Linux. So, yeah. Anyway, yeah. Again, like I'm not gonna disagree. Like, again, how we get to the end result is what I disagree with. Not that the advice that goes with the end result that he's giving. So, updated system, software, and systems and all that stuff. Not disagreeing with any of that. Just the approach to get to that end result is generically where I tend to disagree with a lot of people, because I'm coming at this from a totally different angle than a lot of Linux users, because I'm speaking to the crowd that doesn't give a shit. These guys, broad generalization, tend to try to speak to the crowd that has been in the bubble. So it's just speaking to the echo chamber. Again, my take.
These aren't installed already. It's okay. Don't worry about it, because most Linux distributions have a software center or a package manager if you want to use the command line, which command line means going into the terminal and typing in the package manager commands to make them install packages, where you can easily search for and install all these applications.
Yes, you can, from the software center, App Store, whatever you want to call it, from the GUI portion of the App Store. From the package manager commands, yeah, good luck getting people who care about that to actually do that portion in any way, shape, or form.
So if you can't figure out how to do it, just do a simple Google search, and that will help you out all the way. You'll find videos galore, a ton everywhere. By following these 3 steps that I've just given you, updating your system, customizing your desktop environment, and installing those essential software, you'll be well on your way to enjoying your Linux desktop and creating a much more positive Linux experience for yourself. Remember, Linux is all about freedom and flexibility. That is something that we tout emphatically over Mac OS and Windows. You can customize your desktop either way. The flexibility is something that we're very proud of. So don't be.
I always argue with the flexibility, and no, actually, I agree with the flexibility portion. Again, it's about how we sell it. Flexibility and freedom, people don't care about. Control, and you sell it as you own the system. Microsoft doesn't tell you when I have that 7th Gen i7. Oh, Microsoft don't support it with Windows 11. That 2016, 17 MacBook Pro that Apple no longer supports. You don't have that problem with Linux. You can use that as long as the wheels fall off on it, kind of deal. Again, it's about how we sell it. And people will rag, oh, it's marketing. Yeah, it's marketing. How we market and give initial first impressions is how we grow our audience. So we're not all fucking gray beard, neck beard people that we constantly get told that we are. Bringing in new people that will eventually end up, because at some point it becomes a philosophical thing for a majority of people, not necessarily people like me, because I tend to be pragmatist over philosophical. I have my lines, etc. But most people that will come in and realize that they can fix something if they end up being interested in technology, or if they find a passion in it, etc., and the barrier to entry is low, they don't have the headaches of the proprietary BS that Microsoft and Apple do, and like changes and all that dumb shit. And they understand that the barrier to entry is here on this one. They're going to be more interested in developing here because the barrier is lower than if they go here, where it's much more annoying and your entry point is dictated by a company as opposed to you dictating your entry point. So again, I'm not disagreeing with the customization. I'm not disagreeing with software. I'm not disagreeing with any of that. I disagree with the approach and how we sell it. So I totally agree with everything you said. Updated system, customization, and software. Have all of those. how we sell it. It can be summed up in one goddamn word, and that's control. You control your system. How much control do you want to have? How much control do you not want to give up? You determine that. Nobody else. So if you want to use an Ubuntu and you want to use the default experience, cool. If you want to go balls to the walls and, you know, go Arch or Linux from scratch or Nix or whatever, have at it, because you have that option too. But most people, the 99.9% of the population on Earth that is going to just not give a shit, is just going to use the default shipping experience on whatever they buy, and they view it as an appliance. That's the crowd that I want to try to bring in a little more and talk to a little more than the one that is living it and in it every single day, because they don't understand that perspective. But the people that don't give a shit don't understand that perspective of those that live it and breathe it every single day either. That's what I care about. So how we sell it does fucking matter.
Don't be afraid to explore and try new things. It's going to be a great time. The worst case scenario, you're going to learn some stuff about Linux that you A, didn't know because you're new to Linux, and B, you can also learn something about yourself. Your willingness to see things through, one, the ability that you can actually do some stuff and surprise yourself and get stuff done that you didn't think was possible, because there's lots of tutorials, and the Linux community is a great community. I talked about that in a video I just made a little bit ago about, you know, migrating over from Windows to Linux. But, you know, the Linux community is here to help you. There's a lot of people. If you can't, you know, seem to find a forum out there that works for you, you can always try Discord. Join my Discord. Join the LinuxTube Discord. I know I don't push it very much in the videos. I probably should start pushing it more, but the Linux Discord has a lot of useful people. There's a lot of developers in there as well, too, that can help you out if you have questions. You just got to be sensible in the way you ask. That's it. You guys, tell me, does this help you? If so, comment below, please, and hit that like button. Don't forget to smash the hell out of it. And maybe consider joining the channel. It's $1.99. It's cheaper than anything out there. I mean, it's a lot cheaper than a soda. It's cheaper than an energy drink. It's cheaper than a pack of smokes. It's cheaper than anything. I mean, and you're just you're helping throw an old dog a bone, man. Please, if you like this type of content, definitely consider joining that. Till then, y'all do what you do. Y'all keep on Linuxing. Stay blessed. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.
Okay, so again, I want to make this clear. The actual advice, updated system, customization, aka control or flexibility, however you want to term that, and software, all cool, good recommendations, etc. I'm not going to personally tell people what to use as far as their software. That's their prerogative. That's their choice. I'm not one to, if people ask me about options, I'll give you probably way too many goddamn options. You know, I'm like KDE when it comes to that. Oh, you want a web browser? Here's like 16. Have fun. You know, that's choice in a nutshell. But I'm more about letting the end user make the decisions of their software choices and hardware choices, etc. Just give them the options. Here you go. So again, I disagree with the approach, not the message. The over-reliance on the terminal, the understanding that people don't fucking care about the customization aspect unless they get into it. You know, people, you know, software, you know, again, I detest people not understanding that the terminal is a great thing, but it is not for most new users who are coming from a system that they don't fucking use it on. Generally, that is the thing that I don't like. So I really want to bridge the understanding of the always in Linux crowd to the people who don't give a shit crowd, and make them understand and them understand the different perspectives and why you should care about each perspective. Because far too often, the Linux crowd doesn't get this crowd and doesn't give a shit. And eventually, we're all going to fucking age out. Hate to break it to you. And this crowd doesn't understand and has a preconceived notion of the Linux crowd. And we do it to ourselves sometimes, and the other crowd does it to themselves. So trying to bridge that understanding is really, really important. And I wish more people in the Linux community would understand that. Again, car analogy. They don't. Point A to point B. The Linux crowd is the mechanic. Fix my shit. I don't care. They might learn something along the way about why something doesn't work. So the next time you need to diagnose something, that actually helps you get to the diagnosing a little bit quicker. But that's just my take. What do you guys think? Am I right? Am I wrong? You know, I get told plenty that I'm usually wrong, but hey, you know, whatever. It's the internet. I'm used to it. And generically don't give a fuck. So, again, agree with the message, just not the way. I agree with the end result. I don't agree with the process to get there, how they presented it. So, other than that, you guys know what to do. Comment, rate, subscribe, and you got the Patreon, the Humble Bundle, and all that affiliate crap is down in the description. I will catch you guys on the flip. Peace.